quietly changed its guidelines for COVID-19. As of yesterday, they have relaxed their rules most Americans figured out were useless a year ago. The new guidelines say those exposed to the virus are no longer required to quarantine. Unvaccinated people now have the same guidance as vaccinated people, interestingly. Students can stay in class after being exposed to the virus, and it's no longer recommended to screen those without symptoms. How convenient. After they destroyed people's lives for not taking the vaccine, closed businesses, people lost their jobs over harsh lockdowns and forced us to mask up and kept children out of school. Now, we don't have to do any of those things anymore. Joining me now is the inventor of the mRNA vaccines, Dr. Robert Malone. Dr. Malone, always a privilege to have you with us. They've lost a tremendous amount of credibility here. Now, they're changing the guidance in many ways that, at least to me, seems to be kind of an indictment of their own strategy. Your reaction to the end of these COVID regulations?
They are still wrapped up in the logic that these vaccines protect significantly against disease and death. This is a stepwise kind of incrementalist relaxation. I don't see any language here that makes it so they are not going to go back in the other direction. My biggest concern and reservation about this is they have not been clear about the need or lack of need for masking in children. And in particular, this relates to the fact that the federally funded Head Start program requires that if CDC mandates masks in children, then all children enrolled in the federal Head Start program have to be masked.
Yeah.
CDC has neglected to address this key point, and I'm very disappointed about that.
Here's what Chief Medical Officer for the Association of State and Territorial Health Officials, Dr. Marcus Plesha, said about the changes. Take a listen to this. He said the update isn't necessarily a huge overhaul of the existing guidance, but it does represent an increasing focus on individuals making their own decisions about their level of risk and how they want to mitigate that risk. Doctor, isn't this how this should have been done in the first place? People assessing their own risk and making their own decisions. Risk stratification is what we call it.
Yeah, it is finally a step in the right direction of what we should have been doing from the outset. But as I mentioned, I think this is incrementalism, and I'm uncomfortable. They still have clauses in here regarding development of new variants, the need for repeated vaccinations, endorsements of the boosters when what we're seeing all over the world is the highly inoculated are the ones that are being hospitalized and dying most frequently. So I agree with the assessment that this is a incremental change. It's not a major jump, but it is certainly refreshing that the CDC is finally allowing some degree of discretion for people to use their own judgment, as they should have been doing all along.
And just wish that, Doctor, that they would level with folks and say, everybody's going to get it. Go about and live your life. Dr. Fauci, I want to end with this with you. During an interview in Seattle, he starts telling the audience about the Fauci effect. Take a look.
It's called the Fauci effect. It's what I symbolize. And what I symbolize in an era of the normalization of untruths and lies, people the craving for consistency, for integrity, for truth, and for people caring about people.
A real quick reaction to Lord Fauci's latest comments.
Dr. Fauci is saying this in a very friendly environment at the Hutchinson Institute. My opinion, Mr. Fauci is kind of unhinged at this point and clearly lives in a bubble surrounded by sycophants.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Dr. Robert Malone, you've been so courageous throughout this entire national nightmare, and we appreciate you being here.
Thank you, sir.